Hi guys, I'm Rami.
I'm Peter.
Welcome to Cueie. This is our new channel. Eventually it's going to be Cueie Studios, but we're just here to kind of tell you what we're about, what this channel is going to be, and how excited we are to be a part of it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Cueie, in a nutshell, is, or not much of a nutshell, but is basically what we want to create our own content with. We're going to have a bunch of our own segments over time. It's going to grow like any normal channel does. But what's really great is this is kind of our first podcast, right?
Yep.
So that should be fun, and we're just going to kind of talk about a few things. We're going to introduce each other.
Mini-cast.
This is our mini-cast.
It's not going to be as long as a podcast would be, but it's still going to be same kind of format. And
yeah, we're kind of just going with the flow with things. We know where we want to hit, like what points we want to hit. We know what kind of model we want to fit into, I guess, in a sense, with this particular segment. But there's going to be a lot of things going on with our channel over time. Like I said, I know that you want to do
reaction videos, reviews,
yeah.
Some of the stuff I already do on a personal channel, but I'm also going to be bringing that into Cueie's channel as well. And we'll be doing duo reactions and reviews too, so you guys can get two different opinions, and it'll make it a little more entertaining, I think, and insightful to have two opinions, because when opinions clash, things can get really interesting, I think.
When our opinions clash, things get really interesting.
And I love to argue, per se, points, so it should be fun, because you can't really argue with yourself.
Debate's a good word.
Yeah, debate, there we go. Debate.
Debate. Good adult conversations. So what's really great is that, personally for me, how I view Cueie, I've always wanted my own studio. I've always wanted my own channel. I've always started certain channels on my own. Like, I have my own personal channel. It's just my name. But I'm also an actor. You're a filmmaker, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, we kind of live in the same world. That's kind of how we met and are starting with this.
Yeah, that's kind of what Cueie at the end goal would be, is somewhere for something for people to bring their creative ideas and create what the art that they want to create, and express their passion and do what they want to do, how they want to do it, without being told the correct way, because art is an expression and you should be able to express it however you want. There is no right or wrong way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's in essence really what the whole Cueie brand would be about.
Yeah, that's perfectly summed up. I like that. We're going to use that. I think art is undefined. And so when people try to define it and try to fit a certain mold, I think it's interesting to look at, because it's still art, even when it's put in that light. But for me, with this channel, we talk about this stuff all the time. Try and not fit a mold. We obviously have a structure that we want to go with, but certain points, like, we come from very different worlds, honestly. You've been behind the camera. I've been predominantly a performer, so it's going to be really interesting to see where we go. There's a lot of different avenues for Cueie to evolve too. So we have, as far as technology goes, we are working on our own kind of app. I won't talk about it right now, because I think that needs its own time to evolve, and when it's time, we will let you know.
And also, we don't want anyone to steal the idea. That's another little reason why. But
that one, I've been worried about that, obviously, from the get-go. But to be honest, you can't innovate without competition.
Yeah.
So we have to, instead of saying we don't want anybody to steal our idea, we have to just acknowledge the fact that there are going to be people who are going to think of something past us, and it's our job to do the same thing in respect to them. So, same goes for a studio, I feel like. There's so much saturation on YouTube.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of a worry on our end, because we're starting a channel and YouTube's already filled with so many of them. But truly, this is just for our vision.
Yeah, and I think, at the end of the day, you just need to make the content that you want to make, no matter we have, 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. You just need to create what you want to create, and, whether you get a following or not, I think in the end, if you try your hardest and you put forth the effort, something will come of it.
Mm-hmm.
It may take, a year, it may take 10 years, but if you don't put forth the effort and you don't do it, you never know what could be. So, I mean...
Yeah. Eventually we want a user base, a subscriber base too, where you guys are often showing us your talents and showing us your ideas, and I mean, with your consent and with maybe even your collaboration, we work with a select few of you guys. That is always the dream, is to just work with other people and to create something. That's always been a tough avenue for me to exist in, because we all have jobs and we all have
9 to 5.
A lot of people come from nothing. A lot of people come from situations where they have to make something out of nothing, which is a lot of adversity right there. So that's what this channel represents, and I really hope you guys take us in and welcome us in, because we are willing to welcome you into our world. I can't wait for you guys to see us banter and fight and look like we're a married couple. It's going to be great. But, there's also going to be a lot of art that we cannot wait to show you.
Yep.
We are working on
lots of projects. Hoping for 2018 to be a big year. Me personally, I'm a filmmaker, and there's lots of films or short film ideas that I've wanted to pursue. I've kind of put them off. Everyone gets in that habit of losing motivation, becoming lazy, giving up on their ideas. And the last half of this year, I've really realized that, putting forth that effort really does make all the difference. And if you just keep at it and get better and better, that it's just going to make more opportunities arise for you. So that's what I plan to do with this next year. So you guys are going to see plenty of content on the channel. Hopefully to upload a couple times a week, every week as a goal.
He's really screwing himself out of this right now, because he knows that I'm going to sit here and tell him, hey, so remember on our first podcast, you said you were going to do this.
Yeah, I know. I failed the ball on my own channel with that, and I really regret it, so I'm going to pick up the ball here and on my own channel. But just in general, just need to create. I didn't fail, but I kind of, I dropped the ball. I, said I was going to do things I didn't do, and when you want to create a fan base, you can't tell them you're going to do one thing and then do the other. You got to have that level of trust with your audience, and so I'm going to stick through this time.
We're eager to build that with you, basically, is what he's saying. I just wrote on his whiteboard, I said, stay focused, you prick.
We'll see if I stay focused.
So, I'm so happy to be your muse. Another thing that I wanted to point out was that we do want to do things like reviews, like you were mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to do that together sometime. Sometimes he's going to have his own. You might see a bunch of new faces over the course of in the next couple of years on this channel, provided we are around for a couple of more years and so on and so forth. But there might be some new faces. There might be some people providing their own content on our channel. Yep. It's kind of like the big dream to have another, like we were saying, a big collaborative effect.
Starts with 2, ends with many.
That should be like a slogan, like right? a movie intro, right?
That's the Cueie slogan. Starts with 2, ends with many. Cueie.
No, the Cueie, the Cueie. Yeah. So the Cueie. No, that could work.
It was a
too.
joke. It was a joke.
No, find your cue.
Yeah, I know. Find your cue, guys.
Find your cue, guys. That's nice. I like that. I just made that.
Yeah.
No, I lied. I didn't.
No, I know you didn't.
So. Now that we kind of got the introductions done, we were going to talk about something that we were talking about while we work. We work at the same place. We were talking about typecasting. This is kind of like one of our topics that we have gone back and forth on a few times. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast. So, why don't you talk about your perspective on typecasting? I know that you...
So, it's a little weird for me because like I understand where people really hate typecasting and stuff, but I guess my personal view on it, and you already know this, but I just feel like you need to pick an actor, obviously, reads your lines the best, does the best job at, embodying the character that you have in your mind and your vision. And I know that a lot of people are complaining now that there needs to be more diversity in film and Hollywood, and more importantly in bigger budget productions and stuff that is really marketed and well known. For example, there was a big issue with the new Ghost in the Shell adaptation from the anime, because they chose to use a white actress, Scarlett Johansson, as the lead character instead of choosing an Asian actress to play that character, because the character is an Asian character and it's an anime. And to an extent, it's like maybe the director went through plenty of Asian actresses and none of them fit the bill of what he was looking for. Maybe he chose her because she was a big name and they wanted to sell that, but at the end of the day, it's like it's hard to tell whether or not that's the case because you don't know the director's vision in his head. And I would like to think that, typecasting isn't based on name celebrities, but it is. But I just personally feel that if you have a character that is predominantly supposed to be Asian and you cast a non-Asian person, it shouldn't be a big deal. But people are going to make it a big deal. I don't know. It shouldn't.
I think where you're coming from with this is if the actor, regardless of where they come from, their real background.
Yeah.
I think your point is that if they do the script justice, they are perfect for the part.
Yeah.
And to an extent, we have talked about this quite a bit at work. So for me and him, it's already kind of like an understanding. I get it. I get your perspective. I almost agree with it. Well, I really, I get it though. So I understand doing the script justice and doing the movie justice. In the end, it is about getting the perfect thing. I haven't seen that movie.
It's not that good, to be honest.
I've seen the original anime, and I was hooking up with a guy, so didn't really watch it. So it was hard to really focus on it.
Shame. It's a good anime.
It is good, but I have it saved to rewatch it. So I mean, from what I did see, I understand why people are angry. Because honestly, I was thinking about this. I don't know if you've watched it, but if anybody out there has seen Sense8, I don't know her name, but the Asian character in there would have rocked that role. Would have completely annihilated that role and made it a movie worth watching. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I don't know where it's fallen on. Is it bad? Good? What do you think?
You're talking about Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah, the modern live action.
It wasn't that great.
And maybe and maybe that's where kind of people are saying, well, you know what, and that
wasn't necessarily Scarlett Johansson's fault, though. I think it was more of a script issue. But she definitely didn't bring anything to the character that somebody else couldn't bring to it. I didn't see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
why they picked her. To me, it's she didn't. I could have seen somebody else playing that role. It didn't have to be her. But then, like I said, I'm not the director. I don't know what his or the writer. I don't know what their visions were for this character. Mm-hmm. It probably was, to be honest, just because they wanted a big name to sell the movie. Because modern people don't know what Ghost in the Shell is unless you're into anime, and you see Scarlett Johansson attached. You're like, oh, ooh, this must be.
And that for me is where I am going to disagree. Where as far as, I agree that they probably just hired her because of her name.
Yep.
I don't agree that we should just deal with it because people don't know what Ghost in the Shell was. If anything, that's even more an opportunity to show something much more unique. I mean, if nobody knows about it, that means you have free reign to do whatever the hell you want, and you have the more reason to impress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, if they had chosen an actor, even if they were white, or whatever heritage they came from, ethnicity, whatever, if they had casted it better, because if you're saying she hadn't brought anything too much that anybody else couldn't have, then they obviously hired her for her name.
Yeah.
And I love Scarlett Johansson. I think Lucy was completely underrated, but like I understand where they fucked up with Lucy. Like they should have kind of made better choices as far as structure of the storyline. But I mean, I think the overall concept could have had a home run, and I think she was fabulous in it. So I get it. I agree with what you're saying, but I also think that we need to, as far as our society goes, we need to start, the movie industry, as far as that goes, we need to start really getting confident with venturing outside of that mold, that idea that, people are, when you start treating your audience dumb, then your movie's going to be dumb. Simple, your audience isn't stupid. You don't need to give them that much narrative.
Not the segue, but I hate unnecessary exposition. It's just really, really, really unnecessary because you feel like you need to explain things because people can't comprehend.
And I think when all of that translates even to the smallest things as far as casting, if you feel like they're not going to understand the story because you don't cast somebody they don't know, that's a silly notion. That is whitewashing.
Well, what's so weird about it is the film had so many Asian characters that weren't her.
Right, and I think the issue that a lot of people probably took was that, yet again, the Asian character isn't a main character. It's just a background piece, most side characters are. They're there to support. That's why they're called supporting actors. They support the story, whereas the lead carries the story. And I don't know, it probably just was a counter effect. They were probably like, we want people to, know who this actor is and really love it because of Scarlett Johansson, but, in fact, they probably really hated it because they know who Scarlett Johansson is, and they probably, understood that everyone was Asian and she's just this white bitch who's,
And, it didn't bother me so much because, at the end of the day, whoever plays the role, it's I want to see the adaptation done well. Whether their ethnicity is equivalent or not. But it wasn't a good movie at all anyways. So
I appreciate the different kind of segue, but I do appreciate, though, that it was a female lead, because we are starting to see more of that, and I think some really awesome stories are happening right now for women, which I am, me.
What I would like to see is some more male lead for horror movies. Because that's, I think, where it's actually kind of flipped opposite. Now we're seeing a lot of female leads for other genres. But when it comes to horror, females were always the main protagonists. They were always the leads.
But they were also always, objectified, too, right? They were... There's, I feel on both points, there needs to be, more female leads in horror genre that aren't objectified, and then more men that are...
for example, Ash from Evil Dead. Old movie, but great character, and it was for once not that I really care that there's female leads, but it's just I like to see something a little bit different than the damsel in distress. And
that might be something that you guys see different on our channels, obviously because these are our perspectives, so you might see these kind of things in our own visions. We talked about it. I am all about breaking molds. That's going to be the common theme for me. So if you want to watch my stuff, then you're getting something completely different.
Here's where we might disagree. I don't agree with breaking molds for the sake of breaking molds.
Yeah.
At least personally. I'm not going to, back to what I was just talking about, I'm not going to, cast a guy for the lead if it was written for a girl, essentially. Just because it would be different.
No, I agree with that.
It would have to be part of the story that was already written. Obviously, I would have to write the story for a male lead.
I agree with that. I don't think we disagree. I think, for me, it's because I'm a performer. I think you forget when I'm debating, I'm a performer. So, I want to do those roles because I want to have fun with them. That's why I want to be in them. And that's why it would be breaking a mold because I'd be in them.
This guy is Superman 2021.
I don't have any inclination to do that, actually. They actually fucked...
Not what Warner Brothers said.
They fucked up Superman. Superman could have had a gay actor. Matt Bonner, I think, is...
He's a good actor.
He is. And
he was on American Horror Story, and he did a really good job in that show.
Almost got that Superman lead.
Really?
But I think...
Over Henry Cavill?
But
didn't know
think
that.
he didn't get it because he was gay, and at the time, that was still taboo. Like, people were still worried that, oh, a gay guy can't come out and not worry about his career. That's what I mean by breaking molds.
Yeah,
is like,
yeah.
you see a little bit more, like, I don't mean breaking molds for the sake of, like, oh, it's so different, let's just let it be different. I mean in the sense that, like, giving these different characters actual meaningful stories.
Mm-hmm.
So giving diversity meaningful stories, not giving meaningful stories diversity. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
You know, not giving a role to somebody just for the sake of being different.
Yeah.
I want to give a different role to somebody who is different.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yep. That makes sense.
So that's what I would love to do. And I think that they didn't do for Ghost Recall.
Ghost? No!
Ghost in a Shell, sorry. I forgot.
No. It's okay, the Total Recall remake was garbage too, so... Total Recall, Ghost Recall, that's the thing now. Ghost Recall, they're going to do a crossover between Ghost in the Shell and Total Recall. Arnold Schwarzenegger's going to go to Japan, guys.
I'm sure he's already done that. No, he has.
I'm sure he's been everywhere.
In a movie. I think it was Godzilla.
Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't in Godzilla.
Like some, like, Godzilla-esque movie. Like, it was like the same kind of genre of, like, Beast and him, and I don't know. He's been in so many things. I'm sure he was in Japan doing something weird. I'm just saying.
It's sad. It's okay. Call yourself a true movie fan. You don't even know if Arnold Schwarzenegger's been in a Japanese movie.
You're putting words in my mouth. I never said I was a true movie fan.
Okay, I guess that is true. That is true.
I never said I was a true diehard, like, go to the movies every week. And
that's gonna be me. That's what I already do anyways, but...
I mean, I am a movie buff, but I also have memory issues. Like, I don't remember... I see faces. I don't really remember names and attach them to faces.
Yeah, I'm bad with names, but I'm good with faces.
That's what I just said. But he always says, hey, have you seen so-and-so? And I'm like, no. I'd have to look at their face to know who they are.
Well, there's specific people and actors, that I just enjoy so much that it just, like,
yeah, but then you ridicule me for not knowing them. You're like, how do you not know them? I'm like, I need to see their face.
I'm sorry, I spend every day watching and researching movies, so it's like I get a lot of information overload sometimes.
Anyway, so, yeah, typecasting, I believe, is an issue. I think it's an issue because nowadays it's not needed. Like, it's kind of an outdated thing for where the film industry is headed. And I think that now people need to be more open to casting various types of people in roles that we have never seen. Not for the sake of them being different, but because, Well,
for example, if you have a script written, and in the script, your male lead is just designated as a male, you have no other, like, description about them, and then,
but you're obviously looking for somebody thin, but you don't say that because you don't want to say that. But then you have somebody who comes in and auditions and they don't get the part because they're not thin. Like,
unless them being thin has something to do with the story, or unless the character's physique actually affects the story itself, then go for whatever feels right.
Yeah, I mean, there is a middle ground for typecasting, but as a performer, it's scary to sit here and think, well, I look like this, that means I only do this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. And that is scary because the whole purpose of getting to Leonardo DiCaprio's level of acting, where he can literally take one script and decide to do whatever he wants. And I get that is something he's built for himself, but it's kind of ridiculous in the sense that you have to become famous enough to have that privilege. And I don't think it's right. I think everybody should have the creative freedom to be the roles that they want. I mean, it's less about the vision of the person who's filming it. It's more about the vision of the actor that they see themselves in. So if I can see myself as a character, if I can visualize that for myself, then I should be able to prove that to you.
Yep.
And if you have a bias attached to your brain when you're auditioning somebody, then that's where there's an issue. Because a lot of times there is that bias where you're like, no, I loved that guy's performance, but he's too short.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that guy's performance, but he's too Middle Eastern. Like, no, I'm just projecting. But I love that guy's performance, but he's too hairy.
I mean...
Do you get what I mean, though? Like, I mean, when that's where I feel like it's an issue. And
unfortunately, though, I think that's never going to go away because you're always going to have...
which is why...
directors and writers.
I can't wait to work on things and push things out there.
That's why, push your own projects out there. You know, if you are an actor and you can't get the roles that you want, then find someone that's willing to write a role around yourself. Then write your. I listen to a lot of podcasts about filmmaking and getting started in the industry and stuff. And one thing I have learned from these podcasts about actors is if you really want to play a certain role or a certain type of character and you can't get these roles through auditions, you need to create a story, a script for yourself, based off yourself, starring yourself, and put that out there to show people, oh, they don't think I can do this, well, I can do this, and you prove to them with your own work, because there's always going to be people out there that are willing to help you out. You just got to find the right people that want to share your creative vision, and like
no,
I said,
this is true. I've heard a lot of other podcasts. I've listened to quite a few specifically for actors, and I know that from the get go, I knew that I would have to kind of write my own things just so that way I can see myself and continue to do something. And it really, as far as it depends on your evolution as an actor, as a performer. So this is going to be not really you, sorry. But it depends on your evolution as an actor. You may not, just like a writer, they say that writers, you may not be ready to write about a certain story. That's why writers are really important with sitcoms and, actual TV pilots and stuff like that. They often bring in a lot of writers, and sometimes they ask the writer to do something, but they're not ready to tell that side of the story, because oftentimes you write what you know. And if you write what you know, then there are some crazy fucked up things that are happening to a lot of random people. And sometimes you're not ready. And you're not emotionally ready to do that. And that block can prevent you from learning how to showcase yourself. So I agree. I think if you're an actor, if you're a performer, a singer, you really need to be a certain level of creative and go out there, find a way to use your talent. Find a way to break out of your shell and kind of see yourself, because if you can do that, then you can break molds for yourself. You can realize, okay, well, I thought I was only able to do this, but obviously now I can do this because I've broken down this notion in my head, and a lot of it is just built up stereotypes that you've allowed to control your brain.
For example,
and your talent.
This guy wants to be a Walking Dead character. So he wrote a piece of himself as a Walking Dead character. That might be something you guys see on the Cueie channel in the first quarter of 2018.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I can't wait for that. I don't necessarily, I did open it up, the idea up as this is what my Walking Dead character, but since writing it and since working with him about it, it's really kind of its own story now.
Yep.
There might be something special in there to it.
That's all it takes is, you see a show you like and you want to be a part of it so bad that it starts influencing your own ideas, and then you start to write a script about it, but then that script becomes something else and something else until it becomes your own piece, and your own original, work of art with nothing else attached to it, no name attached to it.
Well, I'm a big sci-fi buff, that, as far as my creative vision. I know that you are.
Sci-fi and horror are my two favorite genres.
yeah, and he's working on what? You never told me the name for it. You don't have a name for it.
Don't have a name for it.
He doesn't. He's weird. He's not like me. I like to name things right off the bat.
Temp title's 2070, but I've been working on the script for a year, and I haven't even written down a single thing about the script. It's just been up in here.
You got to get on that.
Yeah,
because again with writers. You just have to sit there and write it.
Yep.
I can't tell you how much shit I've written when I sit down in on my computer, and I have this. I'm like, I sit there and psych myself out because I'm sitting there like, I don't want to have to write this because I don't know what I'm going to write about. And I just sit there and I'm like, fine. So I just start writing, and then it starts going, and it starts flowing.
One thing I need to learn how to do better is I try to write based on what I know I can produce and create with what I have, and that's a big issue because then it blocks your creativity. So I need to do this myself more. But as a tip for you guys, write the most crazy, no matter how big of a budget it would cost you to make, story that you want to make, and then condense it down from there. Then go through it again. What do you think you can pull off? What can't you pull off? And then work around it. And keep doing that. But start big and condense it smaller, because that way at least you get out your entire creative vision.
Yeah.
Instead of, hindering yourself, and then you get those road bumps and you don't know where the story's going to go, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, or similar to that, or do what you told me to do. And I have another script that I have, it's big and grandiose, but maybe take a little bit of that and do either a prequel type of thing, or just a story that's in the world but not to the story, and maybe make that within your means until you are capable of producing. Really, it's like you were telling me, just do it whenever you're ready.
Yep.
When you're feasibly able to, financially. I think that's a good tip. I like that. I definitely think that there's a lot for us to work on as far as
and that's the other thing I want to do with the channel too, is when we do project and stuff, I kind of want to do a behind the scenes extensive, show you guys the process that we go through when we create something.
It's sad. I can't wait to hire a PA to do that.
Tutorials, stuff like that, just kind of showing you what we do, so hopefully that can inspire you guys to come up with your own creative ideas and whatnot, because that's what got me into it. Was I love movies, but then I started to watch the behind the scenes of movies, and then it got me really intrigued, and that pretty much was what snowballed me wanting to make movies, was seeing how the movies were made more so than the actual movies themselves. And now that's the main reason I buy DVDs anymore and Blu-rays, is because I want to see the behind the scenes and the special features and the director's commentary, because I like to understand and know why and how they did what they did. It's really fascinating, and I want to bring that to you guys with the projects that we do, as in depth as possible.
Yeah. To add to that, you're basically doing what most budding filmmakers should do. Watch the director's cut, consume as much as possible, create as much as possible. If you're a writer, just write what you know, get in front of that computer, notepad, whatever. I do better when I'm writing physically. Although lately I've been training myself to be better on the computer, because now so much of my life is on the computer. But if you're an actor, you really just kind of have to find your way of performing whatever way. I do drag. That so my story was, I grew up wanting to be an actor. I've always been very creative. I would sew. I would do so many different things, and then I kind of got to this stage where after I graduated college. Actually, high school. Went to college, dropped out because I realized that YouTube was better than going to school for videography.
I'm self-taught too, so I dropped out of college myself.
Yeah, so you make it work. It's not like the only thing that I think that I didn't get out of college that I should have, and if I did stay, that's what I would get out of it, was making the connections. Because that's how you would meet other like-minded individuals. So that's the only downfall with dropping out, was that I kind of forcefully excluded myself out of the group of people I needed to be in. But, eventually I found my way back. But I had a really hard time as an actor. I couldn't see myself legitimately, A, because I wasn't doing anything, and B, I was messing around with my life. I was working day in and day out just to pay rent, and then that snowball effect, and then I reflected my ability to act, which became a problem because I started to see myself in a box. I started to get confused, like, who am I as a gay man? Who am I as a short Middle Eastern man? Who am I as, like, so eventually I started to believe that, I guess I can only play, a gay Middle Eastern hairdresser who might also be a terrorist. Midget, too? Like...
I don't think you're short enough to be qualified as a midget.
I guess that's true. I think that...
Lose an extra foot.
I think that word is actually derogatory, too, so sorry about that. But I had to get out of that.
Yeah.
And so when I moved back, I was living in Chicago. Loved it there. Really expensive. Sucks. Moved back. I decided to really just focus on what I wanted to do with my life. And I found drag. I've always been good at it. In high school, I'd always put makeup on and be that guy that you would probably stare at in your school and be like, what the fuck's wrong with him? And so that was me. And I don't know. It broke down this whole gender issue that I had in my head. It made me become a better actor.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a job. And then from there, I was able to almost work again in normal society. It was weird. I had, my creative block also affected my ability to work a day job. So, finally got a job, and then I met you. And then we did a short film, and from there, everything's just started to get so much better this year. And, so, really, my point to you, that was very long-winded, sorry, but my point to any actor out there, anybody who's creative, is to really be open to that one thing that expands your creativity. So you never know what it is. It could be as weird as drag. It could be as weird as painting with snow. I don't know.
It could be as weird as eating poop.
Yeah. It could. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say no. If that expands your brain, I don't know if you're going to be really sick after it, but if it does...
Disclaimer, I've never eaten poop.
Disclaimer, don't do that. Don't try that.
Unless you're dying and there's no food around and it's the end of the world, then you can eat all the poop you want.
But you get the gist. This took a turn.
I had to make some kind of awkward comment there at the end. I just had to do it.
Okay. Well, yeah, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
Really just be open to changing your mindset on what could affect. Because if I hadn't done that, then I'd still be very insecure as an actor and getting in there in the audition room and being freaked out about how you're going to perform. And really, it's all about finding how comfortable you are in the room. It really does not matter the character. It does. I mean, the person with the vision, it matters. But when you're an actor, your job is to go in there and do it how you would do it as that person. You are changing you are performing as a different character, yes, but you're also really,
you have to bring
something unique.
You have to bring some of you to that character to make them stand out over what's written on the page.
Yeah, you
bring
have
out
to
what's on the page
it.
And then some.
And if you're not translating it, if you're not listening, that is the biggest thing. And that's what I wasn't doing. Is I wasn't listening to the material. I was too focused on who I thought I had to be for the material. So that is my biggest tip as an actor. And you're always learning. Always learning. Always.
You can't not learn.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this podcast ran a lot longer than I thought it was going to.
Hey. Whatever.
I was thinking these were going to be 10 minutes, but...
He was really wanting this to be a long podcast.
I was.
Anyways,
if you're going to call it a podcast, I feel like it should be, long. So I take back that statement of calling it a mini-cast, because I was thinking it was going to be more of 5 to 10 minutes based off of what his expectations were for it. But you can see when you start rambling.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Honestly, I was just sitting here worried. I was like, how are these people going to listen to us for a half an hour?
If you guys, sit through this whole thing, leave a comment down below and let me know that leave a comment with the word poop. So I know you listened to the whole thing.
Hashtag poop.
Hashtag poop.
Hashtag poop. Hashtag Q poop.
And that is all for this week's QCast. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Start of the new channel. More content to come throughout this week. We're going to try to do one QCast every single week with different topics. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. All right. So thanks for coming in and seeing what we're all about.
It's time for The Walking Dead, though, so
oh, yeah, that's true.
we will see you guys next time.
Maybe that's what we'll talk about next time.